Pranam Maharaj and Namaskar everyone. I take immense pleasure in inviting the next guest for our webinar, Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan sir. A physician by training, a social reformer, a leader, went into the administrative services with 16 years of distinguished public service in various capacities, acquired a formidable position in the erstwhile state of Andhra Pradesh. His accomplishments include several major policy initiatives. And then, to translate his vision into practical reality, he resigned from the Indian Administrative Services and started initiating Loksatta movement as a civil society initiative for governance reforms. He has been felicitated with several laurels in the course of time and served on several national panels. Lately, Sir, through Foundation for Democratic Reforms, Loksatta movement has been actively pursuing reforms in the field of education, healthcare, political reforms to transform governance of state and local levels. So we, the youth of Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence, take immense pleasure in inviting him to speak and address the audiences and the youth of the nation. Thank you.
We are very happy, JP Garu, for accepting our invitation. First time, a few audience are there for physically, but most of them are all online. And my announcement to the participants in the auditorium here, and also those who have joined us online from different parts of the country, Shri Jayaprakash Narayan or Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan will speak for a few minutes, 5-6 minutes, and then he requests the audience to ask questions, the participants to ask questions, maybe on education or our life, our character, our values, our nation, Swami Vivekananda's message, etc. That would be a good interactive session for the next 25-30 minutes. Over to Dr. JP.
Thank you, Swamiji. Puja Swamijis, distinguished participants and friends. I join you all in paying homage to the memory of the great soul, whose 160th birthday we are celebrating tomorrow. Swamiji was born 159 years ago. He passed away 120 years ago. He did not live long in terms of earthly life. And still, the fact that all of us are assembled here and the work done by Ramakrishna Mission, Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence, and all of you bright young people cheerfully, enthusiastically participating shows the amount of impact Swamiji's life, work, and teachings have had on all of us. You all know a lot about Swami Vivekananda ji. I would only like to take a few minutes to outline 3 broad areas so that we can have some meaningful discussion, because long speeches, we forget instantly. But if we actually participate in the discussion, the minds are stimulated, and hopefully we will rethink our position and our work and our lives. What does Swamiji's life and what do Swamiji's teachings signify, in my view? The first great thing about Swamiji is he reinterpreted religion and spiritualism in our country. Ours is an ancient land of 5,000 years of history and civilization. But through most of this period, our spiritualism is about the link between the individual, the devotee, and the deity, the God. It's about attaining nirvana, moksha, salvation. Swamiji, he taught us that it's not about an unseen God, it's about society around you. And if you cannot serve society and make it better, your claim that you are a devotee or you are spiritual is hollow. It's this interpretation of spiritualism and religion that laid the foundation of modern India in many ways. That brings me to the second point. India has been throughout history, culturally and spiritually perhaps united, but politically it was never one. Caste, region, religion, language, enormous diversity and divisions, they separated us. But Swamiji laid the foundations for modern nationalism across Asai to Himachala, across the country, Guwahati to Ganganagar, Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Now we have to understand the meaning of nationalism in contemporary context. When we were fighting the colonial power, it was easy enough to rouse people to be united against a foreign ruler, alien culture, alien skin, and so on and so forth. But today, it has to be reinterpreted. And Swamiji taught us 2 things. One, True nationalism is about unity across these narrow domestic walls. As another great thinker and poet of India, Gurudev Tagore, said, narrow domestic walls, caste, region, religion, language, etc. Two, if every single child of India, irrespective of circumstances of birth, cannot fulfill her true potential, whatever the Creator endowed her with, then there is no nationalism. That nationalism is hollow. Nationalism is not idolatrous patriotism, worshipping Bharat Mata. It is about lifting every single soul of this country. And true nationalism is about eliminating all avoidable suffering and pain. And we have much of it, unfulfilled potential in this country and avoidable pain in this country. The COVID pandemic has told us, for instance, a few months ago in the April and May months, we have seen the extraordinary devastation across the length and breadth of the country. Swami Vivekananda, he alluded to that. As long as that continues, as long as the children of India do not fulfill their potential, as long as we are not free from unnecessary pain and suffering, we are not truly nationalistic. There's a third message from Swamiji. Remember, in 1893, on 11th of September, when Swamiji spoke in Chicago, he addressed the audience from across the world, from various faiths and religions and regions and colors of skin and races. He addressed them as brothers and sisters, my dear brothers and sisters. Swamiji truly practiced the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, universal citizenship, the humanness, transcending barriers. And in today's world, if COVID teaches us anything, it is that the problems anywhere across the globe are challenges everywhere. Not only COVID, take global warming. All the young people, quite understandably and rightly, should be concerned about that. Now, you cannot solve global warming by doing something in our home and in our village, in our town, in our country alone. We should do a lot, but it has to be global, collective. Look at the challenges of migration. Many poor people across the world, from poor communities, strife-ridden communities, are taking enormous risks with their lives, sometimes dying, in a quest to find a better life, or flee tyranny and go to free societies. It's a global problem. It's not an individual country's problem. The great challenges of modern world cannot be addressed unless we also start thinking of ourselves as a globe. I think these are the three profound messages of Swamiji's life and work that are relevant today. Redefining spiritualism, understanding the spirit of nationalism, and recognizing Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, universal citizenship, our humanness, and confronting the global challenges today. Finally, Swamiji passed away 120 years ago. The world changed dramatically in these 120 years. I want all the young people who are participating to relish their lives and their world today. With all the problems and challenges we face, we live in an extraordinarily positive world, a world of immense opportunity. We live in an age of abundance and opportunity. You must be optimistic. Of course, there are many challenges, but we are privileged. The fact that we are all meeting virtually without any difficulty is a miracle. 20, 30 years ago, in electricity being available to all of us for an hour or two uninterrupted was a great miracle. And of course, internet was unheard of. The ability to sit across each other without spending any extra money, without any extra effort, that we could actually interact and meet, that itself is a great tribute to humanity. Today's technology and resources are enough to solve all the problems of humanity. There's not a challenge we cannot meet, but we have to organize. We have to think, innovate. We have to work collectively. We have to think of individual growth and greatness and collective good. Unless the individual and the collective, across a community, across a nation, across the world, unless they fuse, they come together. If the individual growth is at the cost of the collective, then we have grief. we have strife. Swamiji, above everything else, taught us that individual and collective cannot be separated. Serving humanity is serving God. I hope cheerfully and optimistically, all of us, particularly the young people inspired by Swamiji's life and work and teachings, will make wonderful lives for themselves, and equally important, make the collective life of all of us within the country and across the world much better. I thank you for this opportunity and for your kindness, and I'll be delighted to interact with you. I have nothing great and profound to say, but we can learn together and we can stimulate our thinking and inspire each other. Thank you very much.
Oh, very nice for setting the theme in motion. I request Prashanti Vinod from Chennai to put her question to Jayaprakash Narayan, sir.
Yes, Maharaj. Namaste to Maharaj and namaste to sir and to all my other friends over here. Sir, this is Prashanti and I'm currently doing my bachelor's in history, economics and political science. And I wish to serve the society in the future as a civil servant. So on behalf of the aspiring civil servants and youth of India, I would like to put this question to you. There are instances of political intervention and bureaucracy, and this is leading to a lot of delay in decision making and sometimes corruption and other challenges that we are facing in India today. So as a youth, I wanted to serve there and I wanted to accomplish my dream of contributing back to the society. So how can I do that without all these interruptions, fulfill it to the fullest? Even though I have to face these challenges, like we need your insights for that.
Prashanti, thank you for that question. There are many young people who think similarly. I would like you to think of three aspects. The first is the politician a nuisance? After all, in a democracy, people through their vote transfer their power partly to somebody. They are the representatives, they are the leaders, they are the politicians. Yes, there is much that is wrong with our politics in the country, just as there is much that's wrong with our bureaucracy, with our judiciary, even with our society, right? Swamiji fought against so many ills of society. It does not mean that politics by definition is bad, or bureaucracy by definition is bad, or judiciary by definition is bad. Therefore, this notion that they are bad, we are good, is an extremely wrong notion and a dangerous notion. A politician is a legitimate representative of the people, and we must accept that legitimacy. That does not mean a politician acts unaccountably or exercises power for personal gain or damages the country's interest, just as a bureaucrat and a judge also must behave. So first, recognize the legitimacy and the role and the limitations for everybody in power. The second is, for many budding civil servants, my appeal to you, there is a lot of attraction in this country for civil services. It's good. We are attracting the fine talent. Now, if you make it good, but remember, just because you enter the civil service, nothing much has happened. That's the beginning. It's an opportunity to make a difference. The notion of many people that now have arrived, I'm in the IAS, I'm in the IPS, I'm a big fellow. That's a very dangerous and sad notion, and far too many people succumb to that. That just gives you an opportunity to humbly serve, to make a difference to fellow human beings. Nothing more. You have to continue to learn. You have to serve with humility. You have to forget the rank and power, because this is a colonial legacy. That's not what a democratic society should encourage. The third broad point, it's not the civil service and politics alone that can make a difference. There are so many doing wonderful work in Ramakrishna Mission, for instance. There's so many who are doing exceptional work. And there are so many in society, in education, in healthcare, in management, in wealth creation, in 100 other areas. Tremendous work is being done. In fact, there's outstanding expertise and knowledge outside government. If you think only civil service is the repository of all knowledge and expertise, you're mistaken. In fact, there's greater knowledge, greater skill outside. Therefore, wherever you are, you can make a contribution to the nation's good. And many of us have been working very hard to try and remove these boundaries between government and the society. There must be porosity. You must be able to enter government at any time if you have the skills and the passion. And you must be able to walk out and deal with your own personal life when your task is over. This notion that there is one impenetrable barrier and these people are big and they're permanent and we are mendicants before them, that's a very sad prevailing notion which is dangerous. So rethink these things. We have to, of course, reform politics, bureaucracy, judiciary, everything. But let's not blame each other. Let's figure out how to work together.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes. Namaste, Swamiji. Namaste, sir. And good evening, everyone present here and online. I just have a question. My name is Geeta Krishna, and I'm a volunteer of Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence. So, sir, the training by which the current and expression of will are brought under control and become fruitful is called education, says Swami Vivekananda. And he also says that education is the panacea, the solution to all the problems and difficulties that we face and the downtrodden people face and every Indian faces. So what are the types of training that Swamiji is introducing here, sir? And how can we, being the youth of India, the youth of this Bharat Mata, play our role, play our part in taking part in nation building process and help and spread the light and message of Swami Vivekananda all through. And this iconic monk is ever inspiring and his message must be spread worldwide. So how do we do that being a youth and being an aspirant? There are various civil service aspirants here and professors, everyone. So how can we play our role doing this, sir? And since you have been playing a key role in advising Youth Parliament program, and what are those basic suggestions that you would like to bestow us so that we can build this nation by putting our ideas, thoughts into conscious actions? Can you please brief us about this, sir?
Thank you for the question. Let's limit ourselves to education. Swamiji always talked about the importance of education. He talked about man-making education. Let alone man-making. Today, our education, I'm sorry to use these very harsh words, much of it is a fraud. 80% of the children in our country going to schools have no chance in life because they acquire no skills and no conceptual understanding, no critical thinking. I'm not exaggerating. Swamiji was aspiring for a much higher level of education, but even basic conceptual basic ability to read and write and do simple arithmetic, first level is missing. Critical thinking and problem solving, missing. Citizenship, understanding of citizenship, rights and responsibilities, missing. And what Vivekananda Maharaj talked about, man-making education, spiritual awakening, is of course largely missing. So let's talk about the rudimentary things first. How to give our kids the tools to fulfill their potential. In my introductory remarks, I talked about fulfilling the potential. Every child is endowed with certain potential by creator or nature, depending on your belief. The society's task in the modern world in particular is to help fulfill that potential by releasing those energies. And there we have faith. Governments are spending a lot of money. The parents are sacrificing a great deal. There's no country on earth where parents across religion, region, language sacrifice so much for their children's advancement. Each of you, you know in your lives how your parents are struggling hard and sacrificing a great deal to give an opportunity to you. The governments are spending a lot of money. The kids are working very hard. Our kids are intelligent. But the key ingredients of true education are missing. And without going into detail, happily, the education policy that came about a year ago, and I had also a role to play in that, is a very sound one. It diagnosed the problem and it attempted to find practical solutions to address the problem. But a country with 25 crore, 250 million youngsters in schools and colleges cannot be transformed with the policy paper alone. All of us, the Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence, many civil society organizations, union and state governments, the kids, the parents, the society at large, all of us must work together as a movement to transform education in the next few years. And until we do that, we cannot acquire the greatness that Mahatma Vivekananda ji aspired for, dreamt of. Without education, meaningful education, innovative education, releasing our energies and creativity, there's no national greatness, there's no individual growth. So I would urge you to go a little deeper. Education is not about examination. Recently, we have seen one of the states In intermediate examinations, many kids failed. What are the examinations? These examinations are very rudimentary, either rote learning or mass copying. Even then, a very large number failed. So what is the response? Everybody passes. You give grades, extra grade marks or whatever, everybody. Is that the answer? We have to elevate our capacity. We all have innate capacity. We have to give true education. Otherwise, we are simply cheating ourselves with pretending. And these certificates are not worth anything at all. Unless you have the skill and ability to transform other people's lives, to be part of the solution, to create wealth, to fulfill human needs for goods and services. So, but we are very close because all ingredients are there and good policy is there. We can transform it. But we can't do it in one day. We can do it in a few years' time, but we have to make a beginning today.
Thank you, JP. We'll just see a couple of people have raised their hand. Can I see that this one? Yes, we'll go to Anuj Kumar. Are you from Patna? Somebody? Anuj Kumar? Please ask your question in short.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Anuj.
So my question to you, sir, as you said in your, I mean, few minutes back that Swamiji believed in something called, I mean, one should not fight God. That what we believe that it's a new, I mean, it's in universe. We should serve people if you want to find God. And then, so my question to you is that, sir, there are many ways through which you can serve people. But why did you choose only IAS first in your life as to serve people? And later on, you quit that job and formed Loksatta to serve the people. So my one directly question is that why you chose only UPSC as your life and IAS as your profession to serve the people? Not anything. Why not anything else like doctor? You can also serve people as doctor or army or I mean, there are many things through which we can serve our nation and serve our people around us.
Thank you, Anuj. I'll be brief. I normally don't want to be autobiographical. But as a young man, I was born about a decade after independence. So our generation was still imbued with a sense of the freedom struggle, nationalism, and all that, much more than today, perhaps. And many of my generation, particularly those in Bihar and Gujarat in those days, big agitations came about on the eve of the 25th anniversary of Indian independence. A lot of anger, just as 75th anniversary Amritotsav we are celebrating this year. 25th anniversary and aftermath, there was a lot of anguish that many dreams were not fulfilled. The constitution does not seem to be working for all the people. And that's when Navnirman Samiti and other agitations and movements came about. I was a part of that, very anguished young soul. Then came emergency. Instead of the political system responding creatively and positively, they took it as a challenge and tried to suppress the voice of the people. That didn't help. When emergency was, and I was one of those who reacted strongly against emergency, opposed it. Then emergency, when it was lifted, I danced with joy like many of my generation and hoped that it would be a Gandhian revolution. But in very short time, our hopes were dashed. That is when I realized that we have to go deeper in understanding what is wrong with our system. It's not merely a change of players. We have to see how to make it better. For an impecunious young man, one option that was available, I didn't even think of it. I didn't know much about UPSC or IAS at the time. Somebody suggested, you are so anguished. I just then finished medicine. I was doing my house surgency. And I was very troubled about this. Though I had professional opportunities as a doctor, plenty, I was troubled about the country. Somebody suggested, why don't you join the IAS? Just then, doctors were allowed. Until that time, doctors were not allowed. So almost unthinkingly, I decided yes, and then I walked into it. But IAS taught me a lot because you had a ringside seat. I could do some things, enhanced credibility, had the satisfaction of serving, but more important, I learned a great deal. But I also learned that a systemic reform is required. That's the reason why I left IAS. Nobody threw me out of it. I did not retire. I simply resigned without seeking anything because I understood exactly what was needed to make our democracy work. So all the journey is only about that. The destination is clear. The path is clear. The vehicle keeps changing. Whatever is fair and constitutional and and just and non-violent is perfectly all right. But the goal has never changed and the path has never changed.
Very, very important point which you have mentioned. The process may change, but the goal is very important. Students have to keep that in mind and intensify the process which we have chosen. Anyway, we have our faculty here of Human Excellence, who himself is an educationist, whom you know him well or he knows you well in Hyderabad. He has got something to say.
Namaste, JP.
Namaste.
You mentioned about redefining spirituality. In fact, we come across youth in Ramakrishna Math itself talking about spirituality and is that adhyatmikata or something like chanting mantras or something like that. Today sees the youth is taken away by unwanted attractions, the tsunami of social media. There is good and bad in it, but they are more attracted to the bad. Right? How to bring them out of this, vicious circle? That is one thing. And then I also want to refer about, after 70 years, we have something called as a national education policy that is getting implemented. So how do you see this? That useful to bring this youth away from these unwanted attractions?
It's a great question. Honestly, I don't know the answer. I think world over, there's a challenge now. While social media and internet, etc., have tremendous advantages, they democratized information and debate, they also are a bit of a nuisance across the world, including in India. But having said that, the great Timmarasu, Krishnadevaraya's minister, when he was asked to shorten a line without erasing it, he simply drew a bigger line next to it. I think we must find a bigger magnet. Look at today's session. I noticed that there are 273 participants. I can assure you, in today's world, it's very rare to get 200, 300 people participating enthusiastically. Ramakrishna Mission and Vivekananda Institute actually are proving it. You're drawing a bigger line and make it more interesting. Supposing I gave a long speech, if all of us gave long speeches, boring speeches, probably the participation would have come down much more, but more important, they would have switched off even if they are online. We have to find new means of communication, attract them, engage them, inspire them, stimulate them. I don't have a better answer. Once they get the pleasure of that creativity of the mind and creativity of the output, then the social media, the internet, technology become the tools to enhance their power, their capacity, not distractions to undermine their creative capacity. But it's a challenge world over. We have to live with that. Even you and I, it's easy to, I see so many adults, so many elderly, let alone young people, so many elderly people, in airports or somewhere else, you see all the time, mobile phone next, somebody is next door and they don't even look at the person. So it's very enticing. I don't think youth are particularly, today's youth are any different from youth in the earlier generation. If anything, they're as inspired as earlier. They're more talented, yes, but distractions are more because nowadays there were not many distractions. But we have to find stronger magnets and inspire them and allow them to participate instead of talking down to them. That is my humble 2 pence worth. And about education policy, I already mentioned. I believe genuinely it's a very sound policy, understood the problem in a pragmatic way, came up with sensible solutions long overdue. For instance, 160 years ago, Charles Eliot in Harvard started elective system. It's a shame that it took us 170 years to even understand that and start that today. So there's a lot that should have been done long back, but better late than never. But all of us must participate, understand what it is instead of perfunctory, superficial approach, deep, genuine approach, and a flexible and meaningful approach focused on outcomes. Our kids are bright. We can make a difference because whenever our kids do well, when they have an opportunity, they are world beaters. It's not an accident. Many global companies, our people had. In all endeavors, they do very well if opportunity is given. But others are denied the chance because their minds are not allowed to grow. And I think this policy gives us a chance, but we have to do a lot of work. There's a long road ahead, but it's a rewarding road.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, here is another one of our volunteers, an amazing guy from Hyderabad who is now working in the Sukma area in Chhattisgarh as teaching the tribals. He has got something to say or ask you. He is Pawan Deshmukh.
Namaste, sir. Like in the wake of Murthy sir has asked about the efficacy of national education policy. You have actually mentioned it. But someone like me who is an aspiring educationist who wants to bridge the gap of educational inequity, like how would you suggest the pathway for us?
Thank you, Pawan, and thank you for the work you're doing. You know, at a young age, that you are actually going into the tribal areas, the most downtrodden people, and transforming their lives is a miracle. So, for those of us who think that youngsters are not doing enough or they're not inspired, I think people like you are a great example. Thank you. You know, if you want a single point formula to transform education, there are many things to be done. But what is the critical? Everybody, luckily, good fortune for us is everybody in the country understands education, from the Adivasi and Dalit to the poor to rich, from village to urban, from upper caste to downtrodden caste. Everybody in India wants education. You don't have to preach them that their children must get education. Everybody wants success. The problem is success is not understood. The meaning is not understood and is measured very badly. Therefore, what are people seeking? Why did Telangana government, why was it forced to give grace marks and pass everybody? Because all that the parents thought is success means passing intermediate, not learning and enhancing your skill base or comprehension. But that certificate is seen as success. Rank is seen as success. And therefore, rote learning and mass copy. Supposing we start evaluating intelligently, like a PISA test, like a SAT or ACT test, like where conceptual understanding, communication skills, application of logic to arrive at conclusions, these things are tested, not rote learning, not memory, not the pressure on the mind, but the ability to actually conceptualize, to logically analyze, to find a solution. If that is tested, A, the pressure will come down, B, automatically all stakeholders, the parents, the children, the teachers, the managements, the educators, everybody will work towards that goal because everybody wants that goal. The goal is defined very badly. We all call it education, but education is measured with third-rate examinations and fourth-rate ranks and pass certificates. Redefine the examinations. Make them devoid of pressure, but full of content. I guarantee you, in a few years' time, we'll transform education. There are many more things to be done to make that happen. But this is the central lever in my view.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that has been very profound. The work, as you said, needs to be done. We'll take one last question. And those who have like questions to Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji can write to us and we'll forward it to him. I think over the mail, we can discuss and solve your problems or answer your questions due to paucity of time. Okay. One last question from our student of VIH.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Namaste, Namaste, JP Garu. Sir, sir, myself, I am Sethuram. I'm pursuing degree final year. And along with that, I'm simultaneously preparing for UPSC. Sir, I chose political science and international relations as my optional. Sir, while studying sir, I have come across a doubt like why should we develop patriotism towards a nation? It's not only about our nation, any citizens of their country towards a particular country. No, what is the need of the patriotism?
Setu, there are many ways of looking at it. Now, human society, probably about 100,000 years ago, around the time when we developed speech, it is the speech of modern human beings that transformed human society and evolution. With speech came the ability to work together in large numbers. Even animals work together for hunting, etc. But once we had speech, what happened? Two things. What I can learn from your experience, I don't have to experience something to learn something. I can learn from your experience. Two, I can transfer my knowledge to you. Three, one generation can transfer knowledge to the next generation. These three things were made possible because of the ability to speak. Therefore, larger and larger congregations of human beings, from a tribe to a larger entity to a larger entity. Then from a nomadic life from a hunter-gatherer life, we moved to agriculture about 10, 12,000 years ago. Therefore, we could actually produce food, work in larger numbers. Once the production is more, then you could sell, you could buy, and when there is surplus, you could do other things rather than merely collecting or hunting for food. Therefore, many other pursuits came up. And of course, the Industrial Revolution 2 centuries ago changed everything much more. So there is a progression. So what is happening? Smaller communities are becoming bigger communities. In today's world, millions are working together in cooperation. They don't even know each other. Typically in a tribe, there are only 50, 60 people. Everybody knows everybody else. In larger and larger communities, they're working together, cooperating without knowing who is who. So in that, a small community, a larger entity, a district, a province, a nation. The concept of nationalism came in the 19th century because it is about shared history, shared culture, shared dreams and aspirations. And unless we enlarge our vision beyond our tribe, our caste, our language, or something else, and it can't be artificially constructed, it has to be naturally evolving because of culture. Take India, for instance. For 5,000 years, there's a continuing history and culture and civilization. Across the country, there are many common threads, right from Indus Valley civilization, Harappan civilization, as we call it. There are common beliefs, common approaches, inclusive approach. Therefore, and apart from geographic contiguity, therefore, it's natural that this will be a nation state. But in today's world, we have to transcend that too. As I mentioned, we have to have a sense of patriotism defined not as idolatrous patriotism, worshipping Bharat Mata alone. That's necessary as a symbolic thing, but much more about lifting all our fellow human beings so that collectively we prosper and fulfill our potential. But now we must transcend that. That's what Vivekananda Maharaj taught us, that all humanity is one. While nation states are necessary for some more time perhaps in the world, if you don't recognize all humanity as one, the concept of universal brotherhood, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, let alone the morality of it or idealism of it, the pragmatic problems of the pandemics, and it's not the only pandemic we're going to face, maybe many more pandemics are ahead. There are thousands of viruses out there. Or the problems of global warming. Now it is a real problem confronting all of us. Or as I mentioned, immigration. These are three outstanding contemporary examples that show that we have to actually transcend nationalism. A nation is far more important than any other entity within it. But ultimately, when it comes to the big questions, the global humanity is even more important than nation. So it's a graded enlargement to understand the collective self-interest without losing identity.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time and ideas, and just a beginning of something interesting that is going to happen in 2022. Chala santosham.